All right, listen carefully.
All right. Boudreaux and Thibodeau are two Cajun. Well, everybody in Louisiana talks about Boudreaux and Thibodeau in the grocery store. You heard the latest Boudreaux and Thibodeau joke. It's just part of our culture. So Boudreaux and Thibodeau standing on either side of the road, and they both got big signs. And Boudreaux's sign says, "The end is near, turn to Jesus." And Thibodeau had a sign, "Make a U-turn in your life right now, Jesus is close." And this guy pulls up in a Lexus. I don't know if he was from California, where he was from, but he pulls up in a Lexus and he said, "You two goony, maroony Cajuns, why don't you go do something real with your life and stop all that religious jargon business," and roars off. Then you hear crash, bang, man, dust is going, rocks are going. And Boudreaux turns to Thibodeau. He said, "Man, you know what, Tib? Maybe we need to change our sign, yeah? Maybe we need to just say, bridge is out." So you see, we want to talk about clear communication. They say the LA Times poll says, what, 50-something% of people are against Prop 34, 30-something. Man, that's how they ask the question. To get clear communication, you always got to get to the truth. Let me tell you, the way we're going to do this, Lenny and I are going to talk to you a little bit together because I want to tell the story when I was first awakening to the death penalty and that it was wrong and that we needed to change it. I didn't know a lot about organizing or anything. You know, we had captive audiences when we taught kids in the Catholic schools, but to organize people in the community. And Lenny was the regional director of Amnesty International. And Amnesty was just starting its campaign to educate the people in Amnesty about the death penalty. And so I called up the office and I wrote letters, and he wouldn't answer my calls.
Because I didn't want to take anything from a nun. I was done with nuns.
See, nuns can get a bad rap. His sister had some tough things with a nun,
Yeah.
but we drove from San Diego. I want y'all to know that when Dead Man Walking came out, the hardback, somebody had one tonight, it was '93. And they were stacked in a van in Random House and Amnesty together with Lenny driving the van. We drove from San Diego to Seattle. 2 weeks on the road, going into places to start hawking the book. Nobody heard of me, nobody heard of the book. I mean, we grabbed bus bars in those restaurants, huh, Henry?
Well, even she's tried to convert some Hell's Angels along the way. But I gotta tell you, I got a lot of questions from my friends, and they said, "What you gonna do for 2 weeks in a van with a nun?"
Man, that's why all the Hollywood producers turned down Dead Man Walking. They would talk to Tim Robbins when he was shopping out the film, and they would turn it down and they'd say, "Tim, well, it's sort of a downer, Dead Man Walking. Hey, honey, let's go on our first date. You want to go see Dead Man Walking?" And the other thing is you got no romantic element in it because you got a nun. Now, Tim, you let us like spice it up with the nun and the death row inmate, then we gonna have us a film. But Tim has high morals, and he just said, "No, it's not about spicing it up between a nun and a death row inmate. It's a journey of redemption."
Well, you know, when they were actually getting ready to do the film, because I'd gone to Palomar College, University of Colorado, I did theater, I called Sister Helen and I said, "You know, you should allow me to try out for a part in the movie so I could be famous." She said, "Well, can you play a prison door?"
Show him how you did your hands. You know, he tried out for it. He did really well. If you do see Dead Man Walking, the vigil scene outside the prison, there's a little short, I think it's probably 1.5 seconds, maybe 2, where Susan Sarandon actually puts her hand on Lenny's shoulder. Now, he got a film expert to take that, stretch that thing out so that it lasts 15 minutes like Susan wanted.
Well, you know, I took my daughter to go see Dead Man Walking, covered her eyes during the violent scenes. After the movie, I said, "Honey, what?" Because I thought she'd say, "Papa, you look great in the movie, and so I'm proud of you." because it was on a big screen in Pasadena. I said, what'd you think of the movie? Because she knows Sister Helen really well. She says, I want to meet Susan Sarandon.
Well, it's a story, but let's get to, here was how Amnesty International was my first teacher. Through Lenny, who guided me in, and it's all about human rights. It's all about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Because no matter what our religious persuasion may or may not be, finally, as human beings, we stand in human rights together. So, Lenny, say a little bit about Universal Declaration and the articles that mean the most in terms of how they're affecting all of the world, but including us.
Well, I think one of the things that we first have to go back to, for those of you who read about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I think just a general statement that we have to thank former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes.
Now, on the basis of that Universal Declaration, when it passed on December 10th, 1948, we started creating all kinds of human rights expectations and covenants. And one of the things that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is principled about is protecting people's rights, no matter who they are or where they are. And the government should not kill people. Because 1948 followed one of the worst wars in this world, where people were dragged out of their homes by the governments, shot and killed for their religion, their culture, their sexual leanings, if they were labor people, if they were gypsies, everybody was done. So when you read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and if you have one document, you should have that on you. And every once in a while, you should read a little bit about Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah. You know what was amazing is, there's an opera of Dead Man Walking. And it premiered in San Francisco in the year 2000. And I'm behind stage, waiting to go out at the end of the opera. You had everybody come out and take a bow. It's a great opera, by the way. It's traveling all over the world. And so I'm looking at the wall up behind on the stage in San Francisco. And lo and behold, there is a plaque there. It's where the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed in San Francisco, December 10th, 1948. And it was right there. And then on the stage, here's the opera of Dead Man Walking. The first thing I learned, Lenny, and you could elaborate on this, because Lenny's great, and I'm going to talk tonight, and then we're going to bring Lenny up here again because he's a community organizer, and it's all about organizing on the ground to make things happen. Justice is just us. That's the best definition of justice I ever heard. But one of the important things I learned from Amnesty was that when you say something is a universal human right, it just means simply by being a human being, you have the right. It's inalienable to you. And inalienable means it can't be alienated out of you. It can't be given or taken away. And the line I remember the most, I quote it in almost every talk I give around the country, is, governments don't give human rights to people for good behavior, and they can't take human rights away from people for bad behavior. And the two basic rights are Article 3, the right to life, and Article 5, the freedom not to be tortured or subjected to cruel and degrading punishment.
Helen, I think it's real important for us to understand that we're part of a larger community, a world community, and I really found that out working for Amnesty both as a staff person and also as a member and a board member on 2 different occasions. But I just want to, I have one question about this opera thing with Sister Helen.
No, there was not a role for you because we could not work it out. You cannot sing. You cannot sing.
But I should have been given a chance. That's one of my human rights, the right to sing.
But everybody else has a human right to have to listen. Man, think what that does to people.
Well, I'm going to sit down.
All right, look, you sit down. We're going to call you back up here when we need to stoke the fire to be organized. Okay, thank you, Lenny. Always a joy.